So basically what we're working on here is Big Patch. Big Patch is effectively a patch note or series of notes that I'm going to be writing about Dungeons & Dragons Online because I want to rebalance some of the game. This is going to be a long project. It is not a short project, and I've already started working on it. We started on Monday. It's now Thursday, so we'll do a little bit more today. Important notes about this project. Number one, I don't mean anything by this. This is not a me attacking the devs or anything else like that. I just like doing this. I find it fun, and so I personally want to do that. There's the music. We got music for the stream. So I want to do that. And two, I am also curious as to how much of the game, in my opinion, can be fixed simply by numbers changes. That's what we're going to be going for, is numbers changes in as many cases as possible. That's kind of the idea behind the balance change here. So if you're hoping for oh, how would you rework this tree? I wouldn't. The goal is to be looking at things in terms of their numbers and how they fit, and how much could you change with just a numbers change, which I did here. So it's going to be as lightweight capacity as possible. I'm also very far from being done, so this is going to be a process. So join me as we continue the next episode of Big Patch. Next episode of Big Patch. Anyway. So now we're going to continue working on the races. So last we left off, we were at Shifter, which again, I don't think Shifter is overpowered or underpowered. Important note, I'm changing all the races to have a net +2 on their stats, and that just seems pretty appropriate here. Just shove that up there. So all the races have +2, except for humans, and it's not because I hate humans, although as somebody who's worked in customer service for a long time, I've thought about it. No, it's mostly just because they have other good things, and they don't necessarily need it. Which Epic Destiny good for Sword Vanguard Paladin? I like Dreadnought or Divine Crusader. Divine Crusader, if you have enough Double Strike, is very good because of the Double Strike on Shield effect. So let's take a look at the Tabaxi Race. What does Tabaxi do, and what is it? So the Tabaxi here gets +2 dex and the Feline Agility, and it also gets a bunch of stuff in the tree. I think Tabaxi probably doesn't need any changes as of right now. It's pretty good. The thing about Tabaxi is it's not the best at anything, but you've got the dex to hit and damage, which is very convenient. You've got the sneak attack dice, which is great when you don't want to play a halfling and deal with the strength penalty. And the tier 5 or tier 4 has lots of good stuff. The movement speed is really good. Evasion is pretty good, even though you need this. Your evasion's pretty easy to get. It's still a good effect. Defensive roll is also a reasonable effect. Deep scratches sucks, and I think that's probably is equal to 1d4 damage per character level. This effect is horrific. So I probably wouldn't. We might touch that. Other than that, Vigor SLA, it's better than I originally gave it credit for. I said it was bad, and then I used it, and it was actually kind of nice. Quick Paw is another problem where these are both reasonably good effects if you're actually at this point. So yeah. Why are bleeds so bad in DDO? The problem with bleeds being bad is simply that monsters die quickly. Monsters die in seconds. So a damage over time, like literally 1 or 2 seconds, a monster's dead. So damage over time is not really that great in this video game. So I think that's probably the only place. Also, Tabaxi are a net +2. They just get +2 dex. So I literally think that's the only thing I want to change is 9 deep scratches to be a little bit more powerful. So we'll throw this in here. So kind of get this. So deep scratches now adds what's an amount of damage that would feel commensurate. So it's got a roll. So let's just say I want to deal 6 to 10 damage. And you want to do it fast. So 6 to 10 damage per level, which means at level 32, that's extra 150 something damage. Because the damage right now is a d4, so we're going to make it more than double. So do 6 to 10. So 1d5 plus 5, 6 to 10 damage per character level. But the bleed only lasts, let's say, 6 seconds. So the idea here is, actually, I don't know how long the bleed is, But the idea here is that you want the damage to be noticeable right away and be useful, but to get the full effect of the strong bleed, it needs to be better. Or needs to be better. This bleed no longer stacks. Wait, is it just damage on hit? Oh my god, it just deals extra Bane damage. A d4 damage per character level that scales with melee power. Why does it matter if they're vulnerable to bleeding? I admittedly didn't use this because it didn't feel very good. I think a d4 is always just too little damage. If this is just on initial hit, I still think this is fine. Sure. Per character level to cat. Cat. Scratch. There's an extra few hundred damage. You scratch. Now adds. Oh, is now the damage per character level. Cat scratch. And this is going to be, I'm going to put brackets up from 1d4. It's up from 1d4 damage. Is now. Are now. Deep scratches. I think this is called deep scratches is the problem. So that the typo, or this has to stay here. Anyway, I don't think that you really need to do anything about Tabaxi. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's fine. Getting to Tabaxi. Okay, Tiefling! Let's go Tiefling. So Tiefling is a little bit more interesting in terms of what they have. It is free as well. They are also a +2 race. Tiefling gets fire resistance equal to their character level, +2 racial bonus on balance, +2 bonus saves versus spells, +2 bonus hit and damage against lawful outsiders and good outsiders. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Having the damage when you keep the melee power stack? Yeah. I was just changing the base damage. It still keeps the 100% melee power scaling. Deep scratches and quotation marks fixes it. Oh, let's see. Formatting. Come on, Google. Ah, it does. Very fun. Yeah, overall, the base features are really strong. And the tree, also very good. There's pretty much nothing bad about this tree at all. In fact, the only thing that is kind of bad about it is the fact that Incineration got taken away. It used to be a 1,000,000 crit chance, and now it's not a 1,000,000 crit chance. So that's kind of unfortunate. Also, Infernal Sovereign doesn't work. That's a second problem with this tree. Infernal Sovereign here literally does not function. This doesn't do anything. It only works with spells and not spell-like abilities. So, yeah, those are two problems. So, how would I change this? Let's see. Probably... I don't think I would change too much. Infernal Sovereign, I can't do with numbers. There's no number you can do here to fix this. So that doesn't really help. Incineration, I think the spell critical damage is a weird place to put it. Although I do think that 2 and 3 is a little low because you can't really interact with these numbers very much. Like, you will never notice the difference of 3% fire spell critical damage. And you could make the argument that, you know, yeah, but it adds up because it's extra 5% spell critical damage. It's such a small number. I probably, and especially for 2 points, I probably would change that to 5 and 5. As far as Obscuring Mist goes, this probably needs to cast faster. So probably change it to Sorcerer casting speed. Against the imbue overall, considering they're kind of getting nerfed hard for EK Tiefling builds. It's not that much extra damage. It does scale with 200% spell power, but this D8 fire damage is not the craziest thing in the world. We're going to probably have to come back with Update 57 once they finalize what the notes are. So stuff that's heavily tied to Update 57 is probably going to need to get, like, adjusted. So Imbue Dice makes sense, but a lot of that stuff is probably going to need to get, like, adjusted in a few different places. So, like, around the chart. So we'll probably just hit it with Incineration and Obscuring Darkness. Now casts twice as fast. I don't know what the exact number is in terms of internal cast time. Incineration 1 is now 5% fire spell critical, up from 2%. And Incineration 2 is now 5% fire spirit critical, up from 3%. Pretty much all I would change, I think. I don't think there's anything else in here that really needs to get adjusted. Again, when it comes to Blood Hunt, I don't know. I feel like maybe they should just get rid of this entirely and just give it Imbued Ice instead. But yeah, we'll see. Give this heading 2. It's like really straightforward to do that. Okay, Warforged is a little bit more complicated. So Warforged has some other things tied to it intrinsically, such as the Warforged armor feats. The armor feats are a little bit more complex, and it's a bit harder to kind of put together. So how exactly do you do this? So let's take a gander at the Warforged race. So number one, they don't get to pick their armor for free. So Adamantine Body and Mithril Body are not given as a free option. You have to spend a feat on this. And then also these feats are very, very bad. I think I'm going to probably include the Warforge feats specifically with the Warforged, because these ones are Warforged specific and Warforged race required. So I'll probably keep that together in here. Generally, the Warforged is it's a little rough for most of this. I'm going to say that the benefit to playing a Warforged is huge. So most of the stuff doesn't need to change. The racial points need to change a little bit, but I think the answer is probably getting rid of one of these two minuses. So probably getting rid of like -2 charisma. I think that the -2 charisma isn't really necessary because you can have like, even though Warforged are a young race and they maybe are taught to be on the battlefield, there are Warforged that were created for other things, bards and what have you, and clerics of different religious purposes. So the charisma would kind of fit in there, maybe. The problem with the difference between charisma and wisdom is that one of them needs to stay for thematic reasons, I think. -2 wisdom makes sense because Warforged are new. They are a new race, and a lot of them don't have a lot of wisdom. A lot of them followed orders all the time. Charisma, again, a lot of them are just trained soldiers, so maybe it doesn't fit. So I'm trying to think about this. You count adding a body type. Yeah, to really balance it, you need to add a bunch more things, but yeah. Differentiator between that and the Blade Forged. Just stay because it's a differentiator. Yeah. I was actually thinking of just straight up cutting it. Maybe what if you just get rid of wisdom and charisma and it's just +2 con and nothing else? Because Warforged are created for whatever purpose they're created for. So they're hardier than normal, but if they don't have a wisdom, it's because they weren't trained to have a high wisdom. But you can have Warforged clerics, Warforged that are favored souls blessed with the power, Warforged that are trained to be bards or infiltrators, Warforged that are trained to be diplomats. You can train a Warforged to do whatever you want. So I'm going to say cut it. That sounds good. Racial bonus is now +2 con. No longer a penalty to wisdom or charisma. Warforged are played on live anyways at the moment. Yeah, not a lot. I feel like you could do something like that, but there's no reason a Warforged would be inherently intelligent if they're not also wise or charismatic. From that standpoint. So racial bonus just makes sense. The rest of this, you don't really need to change too much of the baseline. I think that Warforged are very, very strong. Also, the tree won't really need too many changes. A small amount of adjustments will be like, I think the tactics is 1 point. Tactics are still 1 point each, which is great. Great weapon aptitude is fine. The damage reduction is not great, but it's fine. Power attack is fine. Brute fighting is fine. This stuff is really good. So I don't have a problem with this. And then these are really strong. Probably going to have to nerf some of these, especially like 15 determination bonus to melee and range power. That's probably too good. And the Warforged Resolve is just awful. This is just an awful ability with a cooldown of 3 minutes. Holy guacamole. So that is just completely awful, all of that. So we're going to make a couple adjustments here. So starting off with, did I pass by the feats? Composite plating is fine. Light fortification and Warforged traits, perfect. Mithril and adamantine body. Now this is going to be the hardest part. I actually don't think there's any problem with adamantine body, but mithril body is very complicated because it's just +5 maximum dexterity bonus. And the only way you can just numbers change it is to have the maximum dexterity bonus be equal to whatever the highest amount is, like max dex 20 is currently pretty standard on light armors. So you'd probably just need to set this as max dex 20, which is not great, but what do you do? Because outside of max dex 20, the only other option is to say that the max dex bonus is based on the docent, which I actually think is fine conceptually. Where like the docents just apply their max dex bonus. But yeah, max dex equal to your character level is way too much. That is too high. And also not a numbers change. So we're going to keep this in terms of numbers. So adamantine body. The important note about the armor class, where it's like this armor class, this doesn't matter because it's just the docent that you wear. That's all that matters. Maximum dexterity bonuses. Bonus is now 4 probably. What's heavy armor max dex bonus? I'm gonna look it up. DDO heavy armor. You kind of just gotta shove it in there. 4? No, maybe. I don't play enough heavy armor characters. Dinosaur plate's a raid item. Firemouth bulwark 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. It's 6. It's 6 across the board. So we'll just hit him with 6. You're going to be wearing a tower shield anyway. Now 6. Up from 1. Mithril body maximum dexterity. Dexterity bonus is now 20. Up from 5. Because they still have feats that help with both of these things. And I should probably add... So I'm actually going to do something here. When I think of it, big changes. So big changes to the bottom here. So this is big changes. Don't need that here. And this is a title. So big changes. These are changes that are more than numbers. And as such, get their own category. These are changes that I would do category. They should be considered as separate changes from the original changes listed above. That generally would overwrite whatever is listed above. Perfect. So this is going to go at the bottom, and then I go Warforged. I'm going to grab Warforged here. Because what are the changes? The big changes is stuff. Maximum dex bonus on Mithril Body is now 1 plus 1 over 4. 1 over 4 character levels? Probably 1 over 5 character levels. Character levels. And is now 5 plus half character level. Something like that. So that would be an example of a big change where this actually fits. Actually, I can just do 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Here we go. Here we go. So this is how I would probably do that if I was to formulate it. I think that's heading 1. Anyway, big changes. Get back here. Where are we? Warforged. Cool. But we're doing numbers here, and numbers are separate. And then improved damage reduction, improved fortification, and mithril fluidity. Now mithril fluidity is probably fine, although it's a feat, so it's basically just mobility. So I'd probably make this 2 and 2. So just do this. Feat, mithril fluidity now increases maximum dexterity bonus plus 1 or plus 2 up from plus 1. Cool. Improved DR should scale a character level, maybe character level or half character level. Yeah, maybe. little bit harder because the problem is the DR is really useful in the early game and it just falls off late game. So I feel like this is an appropriate thing. We're probably just making this add an extra +2 or 3 or 5 or something. Like improve DR, probably making this just a flat 5 and then calling it a day. So that way it's good for leveling, but it's not good for late game. It's okay. I think it's okay to have feats that are good for leveling and not good for late game because a lot of people reincarnate at 20. So feat, improved damage reduction. Reduction now increases Warforged. Wow, how is this worded? Oh, increases damage reduction by 4 adamantine. Where's this? Up from 1. I feel like that's appropriate. It's like it's not something you use for the late game. You take this feat because you're using it in the early game, and then you can swap it out or take it out later. It's not a big deal. That seems fine for the most part. And then the actual racial tree, I'm sorry, Warforged, but you're going to get gutted just a little bit. I think most of the stuff is pretty fine, but when we get up here, it gets a little bit more complicated. So mithril fluidity is fine, adamantine durability is fine, contract toughness is fine, memories of the last war. So memories of the last war. Front lines is now 10 melee and ranged power, down from 15. That is a huge amount of power to give out for that. Spellcraft Soldier is not that big of a deal. +3 all saving throws is fine. Determination bonus to spell power. Is 25 spell power worth about... Yeah, right? Because you're going to have about 900, so that seems fine. So I think that's actually the only issue. Is just front lines. So shift tab. And then down here, Warforged Resolve. Warforged Resolve cooldown is now 30 seconds. Down from 300. 180 seconds. It's not 300 seconds, it's 3 minutes. It's not a good ability, but it can be better. Nerfing melee power, but not spell power. Well, I just think compared to bonuses, right? So, spell power, a endgame character or spellcaster is going to have between 900, like 900 plus spell power, and a melee character is going to have around 300 melee power, again, 300 range power. So 3 to 1 seems about right. And this is 2.5 to 1. So the power ratio seems about there. Wait, mithril fluidity is 2 AP per game? Is in game, is it? Oh. That should probably be probably a 1-pointer, not a 2-pointer, because you already have to take the feat on it. It's like required of a feat. And only costs 1 AP per rank, down from 2. Alright, so that is a little better. So that's pretty much how I would change Warforged. In terms of a lightweight thing, obviously you can rework all of their equipment and change everything, but I don't think that's necessary. So it is a slight reduction in terms of the melee power on the tree, but pretty much everything else is the same. The only reason why it's not really that big of a deal is because Warforged have like kind of the requirement, the sacrifice of wearing their armor pieces and having to take the feats. Reduction. But with these changes, no longer a penalty to charisma or wisdom. Adamantine and mithril body are majorly buffed. Improved damage reduction is also buffed. And Warforged Resolve cooldown. Oh, I forgot to do the damage reduction in here. Where's damage reduction? Warforged damage reduction. Damage reduction, here it is. Enhancement. Damage reduction is now 2 9 per rank, up from 1 adamantine. So now your character, if you want, during the leveling process, you can pick up 6 extra adamantine DR and this for an extra 10 adamantine DR on top of the 2 you get. So you have 12 adamantine DR. Is it too good? Let's see. Nothing's broken at endgame. It's an easier start. Nerf the melee power. And Warforged Resolve is a bad ability anyway. Because this is just your temporary HP equal to your repair skill while you're below half health. You gain +1 on all saving throws. I'm going to say actually probably something like this. 60 seconds. Down from 180. And is no longer an action boost. So it's no longer an action boost, and it just gives the effect every 60 seconds, so you can add temp HP. Seems pretty good. Maybe 30, 45. I don't know. We'll think about that. I don't know the answer. It's not necessary. This is just fluff and flavor. It's a bad ability that sucks, so... but it's just something you can throw out every once in a while, especially if you're already that far up the tree. Okay, moving on. Wood elf. Would that I could sow elf. There you are. All right, so wood elves, +2 dex, -2 intelligence. I'm probably just going to give them +2 strength. It's really easy. Because they're dumb as rocks. Is the actual tree needing enough balance? Elven weapon training needs to be adjusted. To be standardized. Adept to the trees is perfectly fine. Wild Step is a niche and semi-useful ability. Arcanum is fine. Nothing is hidden needs to be changed to the new Nothing is hidden. Enchantment lore is fine. Face Sight, Energy Tap, all of this is good. Arcane Archer needs to be brought down to 1 point. Forest Origins, all this stuff is really good and useful. And Tier 5s, everything is good and useful. So just standardize it. Sounds good. Wood Elf is really easy to do. So let's go to Elf.
How much wood a wood elf if a wood elf could elf wood?
Honestly, probably at least 20. My best guess. All right. So Elven weapon training with their respective weapons. Yeah, so that's good. Arcane Archer costs 1 point. Oh, I forgot to put in racial bonus is now +2 strength, dex, -2 int. And do they have grace? It's called Forest's Finesse. I'm just going to take this, put it here, and it's called Forest's Finesse. Perfect. Cool. That's all the base races. Seems pretty easy. You don't need a lot of adjustment. I agree. This tree is very, very good. So basically it's just standardizing the weapon training so they all do the same amount of stuff. Reduce the cost of Arcane Archer, because I think 4 cost is really silly and prohibitive for many different characters. Oh, and Nothing is hidden. I need to update this. Nothing is hidden. Was that under Drow? How did I do that? I swear I changed Nothing is hidden. Did I not? Apparently I didn't. Nothing is hidden. Now cost 2 AP down from 3 and no longer reduces spot search for finding secrets. It costs 2 AP. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I could search it, but I could also just assume that there's a problem here. Half elf. Did I do that in half elf either? No, half elf doesn't get that. It's only regular elves. Hey, elves. Okay, that's good. It's elf and drow. That's pretty good. All right, so they get grab that. I also forgot to put in my reasoning for Tiefling, Warforged, and Tabaxi. I'm just gonna throw that in here. So thought process. Tabaxi, being a very new race, has a very balanced and standard enhancement tree that also carries powerful and varied effects in the top tier. For Tiefling, was one of the strongest trees in the game before its most recent nerf, so the only real change necessary here is increasing the value of Obscuring Mist, an ability almost nobody uses, and making the fire effects a little more noticeable. Noticeable? That's right. Good job, me. Warforged. Thought process. Warforged likely needs structural changes all over with its feat selections, but for now, numbers will have to do. Max dex bonuses are based on current end game gear and would need to be scaled as patches happen, and would need, I don't know what the heck I was doing here, as patches happen. Thank you. Increases to the DR allows them to use this while leveling for an easy leveling character. 15 melee ranged power is a lot for a racial tree. Bringing that down a bit to be more in line with other things makes sense. Okay, perfect. Makes sense. Not make sense. It makes sense. Oonga boonga. Mostly just standardizing with other trees. Perfect. Standardizing. Standardizing? Sure. All right, cool. So that's, for the most part, I think that's pretty good in terms of the different racials. I don't really think there's anything else that I need to do here. I for the most part, like all of this. Maybe some other things need to come back in the future, but this seems pretty good to me. Warforged is one of those things where it looks like it's a lot of really overpowered changes, but for the most part, it's like a lot of dodge. So Adamantine and Mithril Body will have more dodge. Imagine you're playing a two-handed fighter Warforged. You could take mobility pretty early in the game and have an 8 dodge if you want, and also Adamantine Body. Is it overpowered? Probably not, because then you need to get the items anyway. Your dodge and mobility only brings you halfway there, so I don't see that being too bad. And as far as the end game goes, this is very comparable. So now Warforged actually will have the stats of an actual end game character, so that kind of matters. Warforged Resolve is an interesting ability. This cooldown might come down. I'm not sure how I feel about it. And Memories of the Last War, again, I can defend this all day. It's usually about a 2.5 spell power to melee power, if not more, and so it just makes sense to me that this should kind of retain that ratio. It's about 2.5 to 3 spell power to melee power. Okay, and now we have the iconic races. Now, the iconic races are interesting because they give very specific bonuses, and they also mirror their like counterparts that come before that. So you've got like Asimar Scourge here, which is very, very similar to the previous Asimar, which means you have to nerf them.
The iconics starting with A+1 Heart of Wood.
Yeah, but then you don't gotta buy that shit. There's your problem, and you don't gotta buy it, and that's money out of SSG's pocket. And you know what SSG doesn't want? Money out of their pocket. All right, so let's change a couple things here. Asimar Scourge. So number one, just rebuffing the stuff that was from Asimar, giving them more healing hands in here. Oh, this is also hasn't even been adjusted, and also nerfing the improved recovery appropriately. Strike Down the Dead is good. Arcanum is good. The Divine Purpose is not good. This is bad. So I'd probably change this to a D6 light damage per level, per character level. Is it per character level? D6 light damage per character level. And that kills you needs a buff. Yeah, probably. It's funny. Is the closest analog to Shader is Halfling? No, Tabaxi is the closest analog to Shader. With the dodge buffs and other stuff, it's Tabaxi. This is not great. With the Divine Purpose, give Imbue dice. That would be kind of interesting. We can do both, right? So what is that? So this is Divine Purpose. So Divine Purpose now grants +3 Imbue dice. That's probably too much, but I'm going to probably adjust that down. Now that I think about it, now grants +3 in Imbue dice. Actually, I'm going to do this here. I'm going to kind of do this. Now grants +3 Imbue dice. No longer deals 3d6 damage on hit. Now deals 1d6 per character level light. 11d6 light damage. 1d6 light damage per character level on critical hit. So instead of doing 3d6s of light damage on every strike, it now does 1d6 light damage per character level on critical strikes. So the best way to think about it is that on a character like this, you'll have a critical strike chance of 25%. So at level 32, it's doing on average 8d6s per hit, but when those hits happen, they're much larger. So the average is kind of skewed. It also works better with things that give them increased critical chance, which conveniently this has in the tree, like Strike Down the Dead as an example. So that would be fine. And then the Imbue dice, this is up for debate. This is subject to change. Subject to change. And then lastly, we have Divine Form, which is interesting. Action boost bonus to attack speed, action boost bonus to melee power, and action boost bonus to range power. But you take your character level in light damage every second until the stance is toggled off. While the stance is active, all bonus your stance double once more, but you take a stack of vulnerability every second. I think Divine Form is just going to be stage 1 is +2 to hit and damage, double shot and double strike. Divine Form now grants +2 to hit, damage, double shot, and double strike. That's one more doubling. So that's instead of 1, 4, 2, 4 +4 to all those things, it's now 2, 4, 8. Maybe it should be 3. Probably 3. 3 makes sense. And double strike up from 1. So now that's 3, 6, 12. So 12 hit and damage and 12% double shot and 12% double strike,
completed.
but you die.
Hey Strim, you should add psionics in this balance patch /s.
Honestly, good idea. I should add psionics. All right, thought process. Made comparable with regular Asimar. Divine Purpose and Divine Form are underutilized, so they received a buff. By the way, if I'm ever off the mark here and I'm like, utilize your document set to locale, thank you. If I ever am off base here about these effects, where it's like, oh, you know, it's extreme. I use Divine Purpose all the time. It's actually way better than you think it is. It's not a bad effect. It would like plus 21 since there's a 3 cooldown. I don't know. Oh, it is. Does it have a 3-minute cooldown? Oh, it does have a 3-minute cooldown. Oh yeah, we could probably dump the cooldown. Oh, now grants this. Cooldown is now 60 seconds from when you turn it off, down from 180. You can use this much more regularly. It's important to have the cooldown lower so you get practice with it, so it doesn't kill you as often. Okay, that's pretty good. Blade Forged. Blade Forged is odd because it's gotten a lot worse. Blade Forged has gotten a lot worse over time. In fact, it's kind of interesting. It used to be the better version of Warforged, but with the Warforged changes, you know, the Community of Steel is really expensive in terms of what you have to put into it. Community of Scribing, really expensive. Community of Warding is double the cost. The only benefit of Blade Forged is that you get soulbound plating for the 5% quality here, but even still, and Power of the Forge only gives 20 melee and range power, and you can't use all of these things at the same time anyway. So there was a time where Power of the Forge was insane. You used to be able to use racial action boosts and class action boosts at the same time, which made this very, very good. You can no longer do that. So this needs to be adjusted here. The Communion of Handling, your weapon becomes Adamantine, bypassing Adamantine DR, and gains Racial Seeker 2, which is just terribly worded. Terribly worded. So let's buff Blade Forged. I don't think Blade Forge is like necessarily a bad racial tree or race, but it's definitely like much worse than the alternative of Warforged, and Warforged was already worse than other races in a lot of respects. So how do we adjust this and change this? I think keeping the -2 to Dexterity or Wisdom is probably pretty good, and just giving them an extra +2. So I would probably do something along the lines of racial bonus is now +2 con charisma, -2 Dex or Wisdom, probably Wisdom, and not really give them the -Dexterity. The -Dexterity doesn't really make a whole lot of sense anyway. So that's important. So let's go down the list. So Warforged feat changes affect Blade Forged because they can take the same feats, obviously. Also, it's affect, not effect. And then lower the healing penalty beyond Power with Warforged instead of taking on top would probably be reasonable. But it's thematic, right? There's got to be a trade-off. Because if there's no trade-off, then Blade Forged Paladin's always just going to be better than a regular Warforged Paladin. But the -10% healing is a reasonable trade-off. So it makes sense. So Communion of Fentanyl now costs 1 AP per rank, down from 2. And you might be like, wait, 1 AP? That's crazy. Look what you get. Yeah, Deep Gnome has +1 to all saves for one point, and it's a 3-pointer. So it's a little better than this. Communion of Scribing now costs 1 AP per rank, down from 2. Being able to cast Reconstruct on yourself is not crazy overpowered. There may have been a time where that was, but this is not the time. It's possible that the mana cost either goes up or the cooldown goes up. Probably like 30, 15, 10, 8, probably 8 is probably a little bit better. Actually, is it? It costs 25. I'm just trying to think about the cost. So the cost is 25. Heal is 40 and has a 6-second cooldown. Harm is 40, 6-second cooldown. What does reconstruct the base spell? This is obviously something that you have to spend points in, but it's like 8. I feel like the cooldown can be 8 seconds because you get such a heavy discount. So that kind of offsets it. That costs 1 AP per rank. Cooldown is now 30. Actually, is it even 8? Maybe even something along the lines of like 20, 15, 10. So it's like a mild nerf to the skill, but it's also cheaper. So you're spending fewer points in it, and you can spend more points in other places in the tree. This ability is bad. Damage reduction is going to be the same, so I'm going to copy that from Warforged. I might go back on that, by the way. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Damage reduction is now 2 damage per rank. So I'm going to put that in there. Then as we go up, Communion of Warding. Communion of Warding is now 1 AP per rank, down from 2. I have no idea why that costs 2 AP per rank. It is very expensive and very silly. Power of the Forge is going to give 30 melee and range power. I have no idea why it doesn't do that. Power of the Forge now grants plus 30 melee and ranged power, up from 20. So it's like an actual useful action boost. And yeah, Communion of Wording is now spelled correctly. Communion of Wording. Oh, wording. Communion of Wording. Word. Resolve is now there, and I think it's it. I don't think you need to change anything else. Soulbound Plating is a perfectly fine spot there. It's probably only needs to be 1 point, but it's not a big deal. So it brings the tree down from 60. So I just brought the tree down from 62 points to about 51 points, which seems a bit more appropriate. But a lot of this other stuff seems really good. Warforged Tactics. Oh, improved power attack? Does this actually cost 2 AP each? No. Please tell me it doesn't cost 2 AP each. Come on, man. No, did anyone have a Blade Forged? Oh, God. Okay, well, I don't know if it actually does that. This is the wiki. Attack is now 1 AP per rank. Down from 2. This is one of those things where, like, I don't know how this is there, but yeah. It just... Okay, so this went down from 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points to 12 AP down. Hilarious. All right, Blade Forged. So let's go here. Blade Forged has been largely replaced by Warforged with their superior racial tree. As such, this tree was made to be less expensive to compensate for that. Minor buffs to Power of the Forge as it is an iconic and underutilized skill. And it's going to say, hey, by the way, this is the English. Anyway, we're good. It is 1 per rank in live? Okay, so that's just old data then. So I can delete this. All right, cool. Cool. So that's, for the most part, that's pretty good. I don't really have a problem with any of this. I think for the most part, a lot of this makes sense. Yeah, looks pretty good. It's a minor buff, but now it makes Blade Forge so much more appealing. Because now, looking at the tree, this is no longer 11 points. This is 8 points. This is 2 points right here. This is only 3 extra points. So this is 13. You can have this with 13. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to spend your points, as opposed to the old tree, which is just like spend millions and get something in return. It also means that for Hardcore League, you get this sooner rather than later, which is also very nice. Deep Gnome. Okay, so there are a lot of conceptual problems with Deep Gnome. The biggest problem with Deep Gnome is that it's just kind of better Gnome. Deep Gnome is almost the same tree. It's almost exactly the same tree, but the difference is instead of getting like other stuff, they get plus to all saves in tier 1. That's kind of interesting. Also, they get access to the armor class and physical resistance rating. They get 20 Spellcraft, which is just bizarre and I don't understand. It's just a weird extra set of stats. They get the extra illusion DCs, which is also here, which will get standardized, and then they get the Phantasmal Killer spell-like ability. So they just have a whole bunch of weird, wacky nonsense. So yeah, so we'll take a look at this and kind of make some adjustments here as we go along. Additionally, traits, yeah, everything, all the regular traits are pretty fine for the most part. Let's make some adjustments. So racial bonus is now +2 int wisdom, -2 STR. This is contrasting with the regular gnome, which is +2 int and charisma, which is perfectly fine. I'm actually going to copy a bunch of stuff from gnome that I'm going to take here. So color spray DC, as well as this, and this. Actually, I'm taking all of this. I'm going to take all of this stuff. So Deep Gnome. Congratulations, Deep Gnome. The Dragon Mark stuff doesn't fit. The color spray is now highest of int or wisdom. Instead, illusion, racial focus is down. No much weapon training tier 4 no longer grants critical threat range, which I don't know if it does. It does, so we'll cut that out. And then the wacky stuff I want to adjust. So Spellcraft 4, 10, and 20 is just weird. I don't know why this is here. This is really unnecessary. It's just 20 universal spell power. I have no clue. And then Conjure Stone also doesn't scale with spell power, which is another problem, and it's really, really weird. So I don't know what is happening here. So we're gonna make some adjustments. We just finished what was probably the best batch of chicken livers ever made. Hey, it sounds good. I've never had chicken liver for dinner, but maybe it's good. All right, so Conjure Stone is just the weirdest ability ever. I have no idea how to feel about this. It's got a knockdown. The projectile is slow. The save is bad. It costs a weird amount of mana. This tree is very, very, very good. What do you do with Conjure Stone? It needs to do something. 6, 12, and 20 D4s. Okay. Okay. It's a let's count it tier 2. So let's imagine this is a second level single target spell. So this is going to change to a D6 +4 per level. And it can be a conjuration spell. It's a single target spell. It's level 2, makes sense to me. And give it a 12 plus int plus whatever. Because it's a tier 2, so it should be somewhere around that. Interface speed away, so not even worth taking. 100%. So let's just change that. Conjure Stone. Damage is now 1d6 +4 per character level. Is it bludgeoning, I guess? Bludgeoning per character level. What else do you put on here? Not the cost, the cooldown. I think the cooldown goes down. Saving throw is now 12 plus intelligence plus Conjuration, sure. And if it's that, we should probably just bump this up to 17, just like the color spray. 10 plus half character level. It should also probably be 10 plus half character level plus this. So I should probably just do this, except put in Conjuration. Which makes the most sense. Conjuration, which makes the sense. Yeah, stream, are you planning the next update? I am. If you haven't seen this, I already posted one video, but this is my big patch. I call it big patch because I am planning. If I was to control the whole game and change everything and touch every dial and knob, this is my big patch. If you want to read it, exclamation point stream patch in the chat. If you want to leaf through what I've got done already, I'm going to be posting all of these segments on the YouTube channel. And activation cost is now per character level. So I don't know how to change that from 6d4, 12d4, 20d4, which is very, very weird. Activation cost is now what? This should probably be still cost a reasonable amount. It costs 25, 15, 5. This probably costs at least 10. So we'll do like 20, 15, 10. And I think the cooldown's perfectly fine. So this will be Conjure Stone. So it still has a 10 point cost. It does something. Some rock throwing spells instead of just earth and acid. Yeah, it's hard to have all of that. It's hard to have all that. Okay, so that's fine. Hardy Nature is perfectly fine. Spellcraft, this ability is just stupid. Why is this in the game? This should never be anywhere. Why does it give you plus 20 to a skill? Like, it's obviously very good, but why is this here? But then how do you fix it so that it's like more interesting? So Spellcraft, this is a huge nerf. Now, plus 2 Spellcraft and plus 2 universal spell power per rank. Down from 5, 10, 20 Spellcraft. I think having it be Spellcraft is perfectly fine, but it just seems really weird. What is this? This is my big patch. I am, if I was to rebalance the whole game. So I'm just taking the time to go through everything. It's like a little project I started working on earlier this week, on like Monday. Cool. And I think that's pretty much it. Other than, and Phantasmal Killer DC, I'm just going to standardize the DC. So let's change this. And Phantasmal Killer DC is now... It's got the same DC, so it's pretty easy to do. Plus fear bonuses. Which version of the game? Dungeons and Dragons Online? I don't know what to tell you, man. You were in here earlier. Do you remember the game that I was playing that you said looked bad? It's like that one. So this is for a theoretical thing. I don't work for it. I just think it's fun to like kind of theory craft out my own ideas. Yeah, exactly. All right. Anyway. That seems appropriate. Do you need to change anything else about Phantasmal Killer? Spell point cost could probably stand to be changed. I mean, 5 is really, really low for an instant kill. But the cooldown is 16 seconds, and instant kills have fallen out of favor and are not as strong as they were before because of the associated amount of Death Ward that's everywhere. Monsters have Death Ward and Death Block all the time, so that's probably appropriate. I think that's probably fine. You mailed this to devs? No, I'm just making it for myself. I just find it fun. It's just, sometimes it's fun to think about like your favorite video games or other games if you could write them yourself. I've wanted to write kind of like my own baseline rule set for like a tabletop game for a long time. And these small exercises are just kind of like fun breaks and variations from that. Yeah, exactly. Just like Martin Luther. The old Protestants. Yeah, exactly. It's just fun to talk about the game. All right. Morning Lord. So Morning Lord is an interesting race because they're a cleric that gets +2 intelligence, which Obviously, not so great on a cleric, which is weird. -2 constitution, probably still fine. Probably just, you gotta keep that. Each dev you interview, probably. Just like slide out under the door. It might not give Morning Lord's Wisdom, we'll see. So Morning Lord is actually really interesting. It's very easy to balance. All of these things are good. Rejuvenation of the Dawn, super good. It just heals somebody of all that health. Bane of the Restless makes your turn undead way better. Blessing of a Manator is a huge buff for all of your friends. Light of the Sun God is a good amount of spell power. The Morning Lord weapon training is good. Arcane Archer is also pretty good. The Manator's Brilliance, these are all good effects. Except for Aura of Radiance. This effect is always bad all the time, but pretty much everything else is really good. The problem is, this tree costs 72 points. So that's why there's going to be an adjustment there. What kind of tabletop game would you make? D&D-like game? Yeah, like a D&D role-playing style game. Not easy to break into. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't do it as like a product that I would want to market and sell. One of the biggest problems with marketing and selling a product is, one, you have to realize you have to go up against every other major product that is out there on the market. So you have a huge like uphill battle to try to steal some market share from like Dungeons and Dragons or something else. And a lot of it ends up going to physical places. You got to travel around, going to different actual like gaming conventions, try to sell it and move it on people. Or you come up with a rule system and use that for the basis for a video game. And then but you have the physical rule book that people can buy if they want to play it by hand. I think that's probably the new way of the future. Sort of like how I know people that played Darkwood on their computer on Steam. Not Darkwood. What's that one called? Rosewood? No. Ravenwood? Something wood. Anyway, it's a really expensive tabletop game. That's like $200. And not Dark Souls, no. I can't remember the tabletop game. Gloomhaven, that's it. I don't know why I was thinking wood, but Gloomhaven. It's like a $250 box set that you have to buy. And so a lot of people don't want to do that. But you can play Gloomhaven on your computer. And then you might be encouraged to actually play it in person with your friends, which means now you got to buy the $200 box set. And it's like kind of like the way in, which is how I think, would be a good idea for modern companies. Anyways, let's think about this. -2 con, +2 intelligence. All right. Racial bonus is now +2. Dex. Perfect. And int. -2 con. You could probably shove wisdom in here if you wanted, but I think it's really funny that it doesn't have it. Also, they get grace, which also gives them dexterity to hit and damage with other effects. So why not? So yeah, some of the best times of my life for making a tabletop system and playtesting with your friends. It's completely awful trying to put an actual product to market. Well, that's just it, right? I know a lot of people that have made some fun things, and they've taken them to like local conventions and other stuff, but it's really hard to actually take it to market. And I don't have that kind of patience. So most of this is just reducing the cost of pretty much every ability in the tree. Rejuvenation of Dawn. Rejuvenation of Dawn is now 1 AP per rank, down from 2. I'm going to be writing that a lot. I'm actually going to copy this so that way I can just like paste it after everything. Blessing of a Manator. Manator. Basically anything that costs 3 points. That's not how you spell a Manator, is it? Amanator. Amanator. I am not a Forgotten Realms person, so I actually am not really familiar with a lot of the Forgotten Realms religions. Light of the Sun God. Light of the Sun God. You go to custom games and steal the most popular games people made and make them into real tabletop games. I mean, that's how they made League of Legends. And Dota. Dota was just a custom game in Warcraft 3, and then someone was like, hey, you can make a video game out of that. And then they did. Oh, the rest of the stuff is not that bad. So reducing the cost by a lot is helpful. Let's get the standard damage on here. So these things I'm just going to be taking. Actually, I'm going to take all of this. Add the cores multi-selectors. I'll have to add that to every single tree down here. This is not called Force Finesse. It's called Grace again. Grace. The most costly racial tree by like 10 points. Yeah, it's huge. Proper video game of Custom Hero Line War. I've never heard of Custom Hero Line War. Okay, so Sunburst is a powerful ability. 30-second cooldown. Another custom map from Dota days. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I never played Warcraft 3, unfortunately. I missed out on that one. Everything else seems pretty good here. Oh, nothing is hidden needs to be changed. Nothing is hidden needs to be changed. And then I think just Aura of Radiance needs something to do with it. Because this is entirely bad. Like, this whole thing is bad. And I don't know how to think about this. More of a squad TD guy. No, it sounds like you know about Line War. I gotta say, I really appreciate that pretty much if there's any type of, like, obscure video game knowledge, Ipsum just comes in and just throws it out. On being hit blind chance? Maybe. Because the light shield that deals damage to enemies, which when they attack you in melee, this applies to enemy misses as well as hits. You also gain Sacred Armor class, bonus to armor class against attacks from shadows and other undead creatures. It's called Aura of Radiance, and we're not changing letters here, we're changing numbers. So how do you fix this problem? A light shield that deals damage to enemies. $39, I know. Make it a toggle that scales. Well, so making it imbue is really cool, but that's not a numbers change. And I love the idea of making it an imbue. Where it uses your imbue dice in damage. And also gives you armor class, increased armor class. What if it doesn't damage you, but instead it just gives you saving throws and 369% increased armor class against shadows and undead? So Morning Lords are very, very defensive against undead. Which is not always useful, but it's kind of neat. And the character has minus to Constitution. 369% is usually going to be less than 9 for a lot of characters, which is a problem that I just thought of. What if it just gives you 3-6-10 armor class, and it gives you 3-6-10% armor class against attacks from shadows and undead? Yeah, we can change the type. That's a number. Changing the typing is a number. You can call it quality. Actually, it doesn't need to be typed. Just untype it. Just take the typing away, and it just stacks. Trying to think of how to fix this without reworking it. But this effect is always going to be bad. The light shield is always going to be bad. I think that's probably a better solution to the problem. Aura of Radiance no longer deals damage when hit. Increases armor class by 3, 6, and 10 against all, or just, yeah, increases armor class by 3, 6, and 10. Increases armor class by 3%, or 3, 6, 10% against attacks from undead. Also, yeah, armor. Armor. That sounds good. Does this make them the best tank in the game for undead? Nope, because they don't have a lot of other tank stuff in the tree. So it'll mostly be convenient if you're already up here for other reasons. And it's also not required for anything. Oh, there's also weird requirements. I gotta detach some stuff. A Minotaur's Brilliance. is no longer connected to a Minotaur's Brilliance. Maw Nator is no longer, or Minotaur's Brilliance no longer requires light of the, not light of the sun god, requires aura of radiance. That's way better. I say it's usually top tier content. Love theory crafting. Me too. I love theory crafting. I love just thinking about the video game and what I would do. So does this make you want to play Morning Lord? Let's see. Now in the tree, this is a 2-pointer. So just by taking Morning Lord, you automatically, pretty much almost for free, get 2 full party heals that even remove death, like the death penalty. Pretty good. You also get Blessing of a Minotaur, which if you play as a non-cleric, gives you aid, spell, resistance, and death ward. Obviously not great if you are a cleric, but it's still something nice to have in between. Additionally, 30 light spell power, just much cheaper. It's their thing is the light spell power, and it's not too bad. And they get the spell-like ability. A Minotaur's Brilliance probably doesn't need to be 3 points. Could probably reduce that down to 2, and then just make it, you know, have a 20-second cooldown. What's the Druid one? It should have parity with the Druid one. What's the Druid one? Druid one is Druid. Season's Herald. Sunburst. 20 seconds, 4 mana. That's probably fine. But 4 mana is probably not enough. So probably like 20 seconds, 20 mana. 20 seconds, 20 mana? Yeah. Minotaur's Brilliance. No longer requires Aura of Radiance. Now costs 2 AP. 2 AP. Down from 3. Cooldown is now 20 seconds. Down from 30. And what's the spell point cost of this ability? Spell point cost is 25. Spell point cost is now 20. Down from 25. Ooh. Perfect. I love it. So it's a little cheaper. You could make it a 1-pointer, but does it need to be a 1-pointer? You're already not taking... Like, if you're taking a Minotaur's Brilliance, you're probably not taking this other stuff either. So a 2-pointer seems fine. And Grace already gives you dex hit and damage with this stuff. Because you get the dexterity. So now you can get dexterity hit and damage with Morning Stars, maces, and hammers. And one-handed hammers. And mauls. Oh. Grace. I'm going to put this in here. So now grants dexterity and damage. Now specifically references mauls. Because it says hammers, but it doesn't reference mauls in here, so it specifically references mauls. I feel like adding the text in there is not that big of a deal. Total stat enhancements. +5, 6, 5, 7. Oh, man. I'm not touching the gear on this one. On the Iconics, I just realized. Sorry, guys. I'm not touching the gear. I mean, designing the gear set, maybe, but yeah, it's pretty bad. So, mauls, how about favored weapons? But it's the Morning Lord weapon training. Morning Lord's maces and hammers. And mauls. They're bludgeoners. So they get all bludgeoners. You could do something about like Morning Lord weapon training 1. Morning Swords, maces, one-handed hammers, and mauls are now considered favored weapons. Which I think is probably within the realm of possibility. Is this called... Oh, it's called Morning Lord weapon training. Morning Lord? Is it one word? Morning Lord. Weapon training. No cost. Now includes heavy maces. Heavy maces. Morning stars. Light hammers. Light hammers. War hammers. And mauls as favored weapons. That sounds like a fun idea for a religious class. Now, the downside is this does not give you Sylvanas. So you can now get a Dex to hit and damage Morning Lord, but it is not a Sylvanas Morning Lord, which is unfortunate. I'd also be okay with the idea of doing +2 Charisma instead of Dex. I have no idea how charismatic Morning Lords are. I would imagine Morning Lords are probably more pious and holier than thou, but I could be wrong about that one. What do we got next? Purple Dragon Knight? Yeah, Sylvanas is the Mall God. That's what it is. Okay, so Purple Dragon Knight. Let's move on. Purple Dragon Knight. So they're humans, so they get the same human stuff. They're basically just humans. So I'm going to copy everything from human. That seems easy. Human. Because they get all of these things as well. Like literally everything. Except for the dragon mark. So maybe not literally everything, but whatever. They still get the same shield mastery. Yep, so they get all this stuff. So let's change that up. And then anything else I need to change in here? Honestly, probably not. Cormyrean Night Training is a perfectly acceptable 2-pointer. And it works really well. Rallying Cry is 3 points, 3 ranks. Oh, is that really that expensive? Honestly, probably just reduce the cost of a lot of the stuff. Rallying Cry, Final Stand, 4 Khmer all become 1-pointers. Rallying Cry now costs 1 AP per rank. Down from 2. What was that called? Final Stand and 4 Khmer. Final Stand now costs 1 AP per rank. Down from 2. Actually, isn't Final Stand really bad? And 4 Cormyr now costs... Oh, it wants to capitalize it. That's funny. Down from 2. And Final Stand. You and your allies within your aura gain temporary hit points equal to Intimidate to a score for 20 seconds. If you're below 50% health when you use this ability, you gain +20 morale bonus physical resistance for 20 seconds. I actually don't think you need to change that much because it applies to all of your allies, so it's not the worst action boost in the game. And if you throw this on a tank, it's still pretty good. Is 4 Khmer still attack and damage bonus? Yeah, this is a very, very powerful effect. This is a very unique and very powerful effect, and obviously fitting it into your build is amazing, if you can. So I don't really think it needs to go away. I think it's a really cool effect. 4 Khmer, for those of you that don't know, is if you're below 50% health when you use it, it gives you and your allies a morale bonus to weapon damage equal to your charisma modifier. It also gives attack as well, so probably just update the text. 4 Khmer now costs 1 AP per rank, so I actually did need that capital N. Now says that it increases hit as well as damage. It already does this. So that way it'll say it. But yeah, if you have somebody with a 100 charisma, they can use this ability and grant everybody +45 to hit and damage, which is a humongous number. Very useful for raiding. It also lasts a minute. So very, very, very good. We've gone in and out of having a 4 Khmer person and not having a 4 Khmer person on different occasions. But there we go. So that's all standardized out. Sweet. Oh, this one was really easy. Also, I forgot to do my thought process around here. Let's just adjust this. So this one, thought process. Deep Gnome is basically just better Gnome. And that hasn't changed much here. Standardized some of the DCs for clarity. And made Conjure Stone a real spell. Nerfed Spellcraft because that enhancement is just silly. All right, I'm just being honest. It's just a silly enhancement. I think it's really dumb to have just plus 20 to a skill as your enhancement. Reduced. Sorry. This tree was the most expensive racial in the game, and was more expensive than class enhancement trees. It no longer is. Perfect. Included favored weapons since this is a religious tree. And buffed Aura of Radiance into something niche and useful. It's niche. Favored. And then we go down to the Purple Dragon Knight. So Purple Dragon Knight. Copied base human changes and reduced AP cost of abilities because it costs too much and isn't very fun. I don't like when stuff costs too much. It just feels bad. Things should cost what they cost. So having things cost be really overstated is not very good. All right, let's go to everyone's favorite thing, the Razor Claw Shifter. Now here's the thing. How do you fix Razor Claw Shifter? Dude, I don't know. It has so many problems. There's so many problems in this race. Oh my god. Okay, so let's start with a couple places immediately. Razor Claw Shifter is bad. But not bad, awful bad, but just pretty bad. Because it's a great barbarian. And so you don't want to tip the scales of Barbarian too much, because this will very easily become the best Barbarian in the game. Consider that it has, Magic Fang, which is already plus 8 to hit and damage, and in a lot of cases can be better than deadly weapons on a Barbarian. It's got some good stuff in here. It's got the strength. It's got the extra infinite rages. So we gotta figure out how to adjust this here. So the answer is kind of just making hand wraps better in the tree, which I don't think is going to be too crazy. Additionally, having all the points in, it's only 49. It's not the most expensive tree, but it has a lot of one-pointers. So let's make a couple adjustments here. So something that's really easy about Razor Claw Shifter is going to be racial bonus is now +2 strength and dex, -2 int. A lot of people want Constitution, doesn't fit the character, and Strength and Dex makes sense because you have Strength and Dex from the shift. It just makes the most sense, right? So obviously that's a good idea. Next, we have other parts of this tree. Hone Claws, Hunt and Track, Extend Shifting, Hardy Shifting, Self-Reliant, sure. Sharper Claws. While raging with hand wraps, you bypass slashing and piercing DR, and then Hone Claws. Hone Claws, I'm actually just going to cut and change this entirely. So Hone Claws no longer grants a bonus to attack. Now allows use of dexterity to hit and damage with hand wraps. You get strength and dex. Hit strength and dex with hand wraps. Now only one rank down from 3. Actually, not even no longer gains bonus to attack. Now grants +1 to hit and damage. Let's just say +1 to hit and damage all the time. So it's +1 to hit and damage all the time, even if you don't use hand wraps, because this is attack with hand wraps. Never mind. hand wraps. So it's hidden damage, and now it's dex to hidden damage. So you can use that if you wanted. It fits in there. It's pretty simple and easy. It is not the greatest numbers change, I admit that. Sharper Claws. Sharper Claws now adds +2 to hit and damage with hand wraps on top of its original effects. And I misspelled a bunch of stuff. Hand wraps, and it doesn't own the idea. So Sharper Claws now grants an extra +2 to hit and damage, which is pretty good. Howl gives you an attack. Stronger Howl also only costs 1 point, which is what I suggested before. Destructive Shifting, it gives you +2 to damage, hit, and damage with hand wraps. And trips enemies for +2 seconds. 2 seconds on a Vorpal hit. Iconic Rage now centers you. You are immune to fatigue. And there's an extra +2 to hit and damage and +1 primal bonus to critical multiplier with hand wraps. So there's more that you can definitely do here. Because the problem with hand wraps is you need double strike as much as possible, and this character doesn't really get any double strike anywhere, and Barbarian also gets no double strike, and double strike is really essential to this type of build, so you kind of just have to shove the double strike into here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of something that does it right, which is the Asimar Scourge. Asimar Scourge grants you 5% double strike as a tier 2, then it grants 5% more double strike and 2 melee power, and it grants 4 melee power. So we're just going to shove melee power and double strike into this. So Sharper Claws now adds +2 to Sharper Claws. I'm just going to actually do this. So it now adds +2 to hit and damage on top of original effects. Now adds +5% double strike while using hand wraps. This is a +5% double strike. Just straight up. And that's not the end of it, though, because we were looking at Asimar Scourge. But here's the thing. You have Destructive Shifting and also Overwhelming Shifting. So now Destructive Shifting can specifically grant +2 to hit and damage with hand wraps, but it can also just give generally universal double strike in case your hero is a non-hand wrap barbarian. So Destructive Shifting now adds +2% double strike on top of its other effects. And that is 2 words. Strimtom. And then finally we have Overwhelming Shifting. Overwhelming Shifting. Shifting. It now adds +3 to hit and damage with hand wraps up from was this up from 2? Now adds +3% double strike with hand wraps. So this is non-hand wrap double strike, and this is hand wrap double strike. It's basically if you just want to invest a little bit in the tree, and you want to have that as well. And then the craziest thing, and this is sort of a numbers change, I would probably add in another tier 4, because there's only 2 of them. That gives you +1 competence bonus or critical threat range with hand wraps, and I think that's the only way to do it, but I don't even know. Part of my brain wants to add in like a Dance of Death somewhere, something like that. Like instead of Relentless Onslaught, it's Dance of Death, but with hand wraps. But this character still runs into problems even with 10% double strike. How do you make it better? Man, I have no clue. The thing that's centered on head for like 10 seconds. I mean, you do get Shred, which does do that. Because this now has 10% extra double strike and +4 damage. Yeah, 5% double strike, 2%, 3%. So 10% double strike and 1, 2, that's 3, and then 4 damage. Melee power in True Hunter? No, then I'd have to add melee power to True Hunter in the regular one. It's a unique ability. think you just add something like, this is the only time I'm going to do this, new enhancement. And call it Big Claw Roar. And how do you write that? I actually don't know how they write it specifically. Enhancement tree. Monk. Shintao. While you were centered in wielding hand wraps. Oh, God. Plain text. Plain text, yeah. While you are raging in wielding hand wraps, +1 bonus to combat range. Ugh. Agree with adding 10 melee power and hand wrapping. The thing is, they don't need melee power because Barbarian has all the melee power. Like, Barbarian has all of the melee power you could ever want. Remember that in Update 57, Barbarians are getting an extra 10 melee power being added into their trees, on top of the fact that there already is a bunch of melee power everywhere. So, you like this health. And something like Relentless Onslaught. I could probably now costs 1 AP. Down from 2. Costs 1 AP. Costs 1 AP. Requires overwhelming shifting. Something like that. So it would they would just slide it in right here. Because like I said, adding melee power kind of makes sense, except for the fact that the thing that Barbarian has lots of is melee power. The thing they don't have anything of is double strike. So it's basically just adding the double strike from another character that you would get somewhere else because you get the offhand double strike as well. Honestly, I'm not done yet. This race sucks. And hand wraps suck with this race. So second claw. Second claw now costs 2 AP, down from 3. Now grants plus 20% offhand strike chance. Now requires hand wraps. Is hand wraps one word? I think hand wraps is one word actually. Why is this spelled wrong and this isn't spelled wrong? You know what? I don't know the answer, dude. So now you get 20% offhand strike chance, and it just doesn't have the double strike in it, just 20% offhand strike chance. That seems fine. All right, great. Perfect. The thought process. Razor Claw needs a lot of help when it comes to hand wraps. Barbarians don't get hit chance, double strike, or offhand attack chance. What did I write here? So this tree will now grant much of those things. +1. Oh, this is competence bonus. Competence, crit, and multi just means you can be flexible about what barb tree you end up using, although it does make what's that one called? The Cult Slayer seem the worst, but I don't know how to fix that at the moment. So that's pretty much it. Just shove a bunch of damage into here. Damage. Just want to really get the damage in there. Friends, viewers, view and favorite soul An abused favorite dual wield. It'd be funny if SG decided to raise last shifter and imbue dice. Well, that's just it. I'm waiting until that happens. This is not going to be done before update 57, so I'm going to have time to read what they're doing for update 57 and maybe include some imbue dice. I kind of do like the idea of there being base imbue dice actually in this tree while shifting. So something, even changing something like, instead of sharper claws adding hit and damage, it's like +1 imbue dice and plus imbue dice while shifting, so it gives you extra damage, which would also buff up the Morbius build. But anyway, yeah, we're not talking about Morbius. We're not talking about Morbius. All right, I have 3 more iconics left: Scoundrel, Shader Kai, and Trailblazer. So let's take a look at Scoundrel. Scoundrel has basically the similar stuff as the baseline
Hey
Tiefling.
Strim,
What's up?
here. Why is this Hadriel guy just hanging out by the Oblos chambers and not doing anything? He's kinda a bum, no?
Yeah, basically. I always found Hadriel funny because he just stands there and be like, "Go, kill him, champion." You're like, Hadriel, what are you standing around? Integration bugs fixed. Just if you have a Shadow Blade, don't have one when you reincarnate. So if you cast one in town, because when you leave a dungeon, it dispels itself. But if you cast one in town and you have one in your hands, just drag and drop it in your inventory. They're fixing that in the future, but just don't have one when you reincarnate. It's really easy to avoid. Okay, so Tiefling Scoundrel doesn't really need a lot. It gives a ton of spell power. Hellish Rebuke is fine. Dashing weapons and all that's fine. Saves versus spells is fine. Obscuring Darkness has the same thing, so we'll probably copy over the Obscuring Darkness effects. And then pretty much everything on here is really strong. Ash Imprisontment's amazing. I think the only thing I want to change is Staccato Sovereign is a noob trap, and it needs to be deleted. So I think this is just going to change away from being a noob trap. Because I think it's too much. Yeah, it's too much noob trap. So that's the issue. So we're going to get rid of that. What happens if you have the blade? You can't take it out of your TR cache, and you get stuck. And you have to file a ticket to get unstuck. So if you reincarnate with one in your stash, it goes away. Cost 10, up from 2. Honestly, not a bad idea. Amazing idea. All right, so Scoundrel. I'm going to copy some other stuff from around here. But Staccato Sovereign. Actually, I want to get rid of all the noob traps. And Tiefling has one too. So we're going to get rid of the Tiefling noob trap as well. I've just decided that's a good idea. Just kill it. Okay, so there we go. So Staccato Sovereign. So obscure Staccato Sovereign. Staccato Sovereign. No longer says that spell power copying stuff since it doesn't work. Instead, grants plus 10 temporary spell power. No. Actually, plus 10 fire and sonic spell power. That seems good. Plus 10. Plus 20. Plus 20. Plus 20. 20. 20. That sounds good. I think 20 is good. It's a tier 4. The other option that I was thinking of was the instead of doing like plus to spell power, doing something like the crit effect that you get, where when you crit, you get temporary spell points. So like whenever you cast a fire or sonic spell, you get temporary spell points, but then it wouldn't make sense anywhere else. So yeah, that's fine. And what are these called? Now I need Tiefling. Tiefling, where are you? I have to work back on this. Tiefling. Oh my god. Oh my god. How did I do this so wrong? Enhancements. This is Infernal, Sovereign, Acid, Electric, and Cold. Okay, Tiefling, you're going away. These things should not be in the game, for the record. Oh god, I just gotta stop doing this. Okay, and now I'm going to copy this thing from down here. You know, I can click around on this too. That's the best part, is I can easily click around on this. This is a heading 2. Razor Claw is a heading 2. I'm just now editing this as I go. Purple Dragonite is a heading 2. Morning Lord is a heading 2. Deep Gnome is a heading 2. Blade Forged. Oh yeah, that my ladies and gentlemen, is a heading 2. And Asimar Scourge is a heading 2. Okay, so go down to Scoundrel. Copy this. Down to Tiefling. So. Here we go. So this is electric. Electric. Wait, 20 electric spell power? That sounds good. Spell power. This is cold. And this is acid. And 5% spell critical damage. I copy this as acid. Acid spell critical damage. That makes sense. No, the 5 is fine. And then call this cold. And then we're going to do this. And this is electric. And I don't like that. This is now 10. This is now 10. I'm just mildly balancing. So that way it fits with the other spell critical damage on Incineration. So it kind of makes sense that it's like a copy over of what you would get. In case you want that. And Scoundrel is fire or sonic. 10 fire and sonic. And 10. No, not 10. 5 fire and sonic spell critical damage. Cool. That sounds good. We get rid of this. Infernal Sovereign does not function with SLAs in the game, which is how most players would use this effect. And so to avoid a noob trap, this is being changed to something that just works. And now I want to highlight this, hyperlink this to Todd Howard. Todd Howard, because these are my patch notes. Now there's right click, copy image address. Just works. Hyperlink, insert link. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so now when you click this, it brings you to Todd Howard. Does that make sense? So when you click it, you're like, that just works? It just works. It just works, okay? And we're all set. Anyway, let's copy this. Get this into the Scoundrel. Oh, I didn't actually write the changes. Tiefling Scoundrel. This here. Scoundrel, like Tiefling, is incredibly good and balanced and required basically no changes. Who knew? Incredibly good. There we go. And Infernal Sovereign, there we go. So now it's Todd Howard. I really like that this is a hyperlink, so now it just takes you to Todd Howard. That makes me very happy. I want to set Todd Howard as my background. Oh, now I want to set Todd Howard as my background for some reason. Just that every time I turn on my computer, I can just see his face. Anyway, let's stop being distracted by Todd Howard. Shader Kai! Everybody loves Shader Kai. Don't you? I do. So Shader Kai is plus to dexterity, minus to charisma, Shader Kai Chain Whip. I actually think that Shader Kai kind of have to keep the minus to charisma because they're weirdos. They're like these weird masochists, and they probably wouldn't get along with a lot of people. So I feel like holding on to that feels pretty good. Yeah, they're major edgelords. But I don't know what else to give them, so that's going to be weird. I think I'm going to probably give them 1 int and 1 con. Other than that, the rest of the tree recently got rebalanced, and I actually don't think it needs to be touched at all except for Winter Favored, which is very bad. Gloomstalker is a 1-pointer, and nothing is hidden needs to be updated. Other than that, I think everything is good. So Shader Kai is pretty straightforward and done. So racial bonus is now +2 dex. Dix. +1 int con. -2 charisma. That still seems good to me. Because I think that is great. All of these are fine. This is all fine. Nothing here is bad. Nothing here is bad. It's just the tier 5. So nothing is hidden. So I'm going to take the nothing is hidden from Morning Lord. Nothing is hidden. Razor Claw. Oh, it's here. Nothing is hidden is now here. And Gloom Stalker is now 1 AP, down from 2. And then Winter Favored. Winter Favored. Pending U57. Perfect. Thought process. Gonna take this. I don't need the Todd Howard bit. Shader Kai is great. I don't need to tell you that. Perfect. So that's great. And now we have Trailblazer, the most recent race added to the game. How does it fare against Strimtom's Eye for Balance? I don't know. Tabaxi Trailblazer enhancements. Or no, races. Races. Tabaxi Trailblazer. So they get Dex. Plus to Dex. I kind of want to give them plus to Wisdom and minus to Charisma. Because they're weird monks and they don't really talk to anybody. How do you guys feel about that? Like, yeah, they're cats, but they're like weird monks. I don't think I actually need to do anything here. You're right, but I'm just thinking about it. Just after we hate the minus charisma? That's true. That's true. Okay, so there's only one change I would make. Fix staff sweep so it actually has a DC instead of always working. Or wide sweep? It's not called staff sweep. Wide sweep. Wide sweep. Thought process. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And now, obviously, since this is a quote, we got to link it to something. So we're going to insert a hyperlink right here. So this, I believe. There we go. And now, all of a sudden, perfectly balanced as all things should be. That takes me to, that's right, Todd Howard. So it's perfect. That's exactly who you were thinking of. That's who I was thinking of too. So it really fits. It really fits. Yeah, it's Todd Howard. Could you make this more expensive? It's got a lot of points. Famous Avenger? Yeah, exactly. It's Thanos. 16 times the cost. Oh, yeah, it should probably also get nerfed. Yeah, Staff Sweep needs to get nerfed anyway. Because there's a trip for 20 seconds. Yeah, probably nerf it to 12. Also nerf it to 12 seconds CD with improved trip. That's probably good. That's a good idea. It's the cooldown of this ability is disgusting. It's really stupid in R10s. That's one of the reasons why my character is so good with it. Because it has no saving throw and it lasts for 20 seconds. So it's just a knockdown for 20 seconds. Okay, so that is all of the iconic races. Now there's one thing that somebody pointed out that I actually need to do is several of these races received a change in their base stats. So like Drow now have, not Drow, Dwarves are just +2 con. Elves, Dex, something. Oh, what do we figure out for Elves? It said -2 con. Intelligence kind of makes sense. Wisdom kind of makes sense. Charisma kind of makes sense. It's like, you know, they're really charismatic. We've made tactical CC on the part of CC spells, we've made it iconic. Int me things. Yeah, but there already is like 4 Dex int characters. That's the only reason why I was thinking charisma instead. A lot of people like to make Elven bards as well. Elven bard is a very popular one. Yeah. There's a beast, so ignore them? Nah. Well, let's hit this for now. Pending. Okay, so since this is changing, Core 2 and Core 4 now become +1 Dex Charisma. Change from just +1 Dex. +2 Dex, no negatives? I could see that. See elves. Dex Wisdom makes sense, seeing as the Arcane Archer and Elf's SLA scale off of Wisdom. Oh, they do scale off of Wisdom, don't they? They do. That stuff does scale off of Wisdom. I actually like that. I think that's not a bad idea. Although Arcane Archer is probably also something that's subject to change, but we'll see. For now, I'll put that there. That seems to make sense to me. I've been won over. All right. Elf. Gnome. Now become, what is this? This is int charisma. Change from just plus int. Perfect. Halfling is dex and int. There's now dex and int. What's the difference between gray and white D2R items? So white items have no sockets and are not superior. But gray items are either superior, which means they have higher base stats. So like a superior weapon has a higher base damage, which means that if you were to like put a rune word into it or enchant it, it has even more stats. It could also have sockets. Gray also indicates sockets. And finally, gray also indicates ethereal, which has also superior, like it's basically maxed ethereal or superior stats, but its durability can never go up. It only goes down and eventually it just disappears. Wisdom should be a 2/2, should be a multi-selector or +2/2. Yeah, we'll get there, don't worry. This is fine. Half orc is now strength wisdom, and so just strength. Oh yeah, because half orc is strength wisdom. Oh, did I put dex in here? Dex int? Dex instead of just, oh yeah, dex. Yeah. Good call. Thank you. I keep reading chat instead of doing my job. Editing this thing I decided to edit. Racial bonus I don't need to change because it's already fine. Tabaxi is fine. Obscuring thing is fine. Warforged is fine. Wood Elf is already doing that. That's already doing that. Con and Charisma. I believe Bladeforge does Con and Charisma, but I could be wrong. It's not. It's just Con. All right. So it's Con. They're just +1 Con. Are you writing patch notes? I don't know. This is already int wisdom. Dex int. I think Morning Lord is also Dex int, but I actually don't know. Morning Lord. It is not. It is not Dex Int. Interesting. All right. Dex Int instead of just Int. So the reason why I'm writing patch notes is this is the big patch. I'm writing my own giant patch. So if I was to rebalance the entirety of DDO, this is how I would patch it. This is what I would do. And yeah, is Strength and Dex. They already have Strength and Dex. That's good. That's done. Shader Kai already has all those stats. Trailblazer's perfectly fine. Cool. Yeah, so for example, on Warforged, because you would care about that, this is if I was to rebalance the game, how I would change it. Warforged are now just +2 con. They don't have a penalty to Wisdom or Charisma. The rebalance is races at a +2. Races are a +2. So that's it. Adamantine Body is now +6 max dex, which is the cap. Important note, this is just as much as possible numbers changes, just changing numbers to fix stuff. Big changes are under big changes, like making it so Adamantine Body and Mithril Body scale, but this is not just changing a number. This is a new mechanic they don't have, so obviously it would take longer to do than this. Mithril Body is 20 max dex as opposed to 5, so it goes over the end game. Mithril Fluidity, the feat, is +2 max dex. Improved damage reduction is 4 adamantine instead of 1. Enhancement damage reduction is 2 adamantine instead of 1. Memories of the Last War nerf because it was too good anyway. And Warforged Resolve is now 45 seconds down from 180 and is no longer an action boost, so you can use it while you do other stuff. Yeah. Should you add some of the imbue stuff you wanted to big changes? No, I'm going to wait till the imbue comes out, and then I can go back and backdate it. It's feat selections. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. How I would adjust some of these races to make them, to bounce them out. Yeah, like I don't want to have to like redo a bunch of work, like write some stuff down, and then all of a sudden, what if out of nowhere, SSG goes, by the way, update 57, we are not doing imbue changes, we are going back on it. And then all of a sudden I have to redo a bunch of work. I'm not doing that. I'm just not going to do any work. You see, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, people think about this, they're like, oh, you know, what are you going to do if everything changes? Well, if I do nothing, now I don't have to redo anything. See? You see what I'm saying? If I do no work ever, then I never have to redo any work.
If there is any race that has a -2 intelligence, rename it from racial bonus to you think you do but you don't and link J. Allen Brack.
You think you do, but you don't. That's funny. Okay, so what's up next? Feats? All right. All right. Feats. There we go. Just change the text. Now it fits. Oh, I didn't put Shader Kai in here either. Shader Kai is now a heading 2. Trailblazer is a heading 2. And Lusitana. There we go. Now it all looks pretty. It's all good. So now we got feats and then big changes. Big change. This will be good. I always thought it was weird the Morning Lord +2 int and they were just a cleric. Just give them the wisdom. Yeah, my understanding is because Morning Lords are very knowledgeable and smart. They're very scholarly. So, hey, I didn't fix it either. It's got Dex and Int. So it is what it is. I'm not going to go against the DDO gods. If they don't want them to have wisdom, they don't want them to have wisdom. I would like to, in a lot of cases, avoid just making the best thing, if possible. So instead of making something that is obviously the best thing, which would be to give them wisdom, like if I wanted to, I'd just be like, Morning Lords are wisdom, charisma, and just make the best thing. But it feels better to have something different. Plus, with Grace, it gives them dexterity and damage, and they can use it with mauls, as well as their heavy maces, morning stars, light weapons, light hammers, and mauls.
Hey Strim, Brian here. Was just moving all my pots into my belt before going after Diablo.
Yep.
Or so I thought. I just drank them all instead. Big Sag.
I've done that too. When you're like, oh yeah, I gotta move all these potions, and then you like shift click them to move them, but you were actually just shift right clicking them, which is drinking them. Yeah. Cool. Well, now we have feats. So what are the feats here? 1.1 in Iconics, 1.2? No. But great question. Okay, let's see. Attack. Okay. Okay. All right. Feats. Attack. This feat is so broken. It literally lets you attack forever. WTF. Like, so much damage. Oh, God. Anyway, so that's attack. That's my feat. I'm not gonna do feats today. I think that's good enough. Yeah, you want me to do this? Well, it's 1.1. It's like 1 and then it's 1.1. What about 1A? Do you like 1A?